Hey strong people, Kalle Beck here from StartingStrongman.com. World's Strongest Man is a wrap. What a week. A lot going on. Thanks for all of the new watchers, viewers, subscribers, hopefully, etc. Fun week. Decided to do a little Q&A. Just overall comments people had, because there's a lot of them, so I figured I'd cover them. Got 20 over here on my YouTube community tab. So I figure that's enough to talk for a bit. First comment, basically, I see comments all the time that World's Strongest Man is too light now and favors smaller, faster guys. However, Laws says that they are repping weights heavier than some of the max weights when he started his career. I have not been following Strongman long enough to know what to think about this. What are your thoughts? My thoughts. So, when people say World's Strongest Man is too light, and it should be World's Strongest Man, not World's Fastest Man, that generally means two things. It means their favorite athlete didn't win, so they're upset and they want to come up with some sort of reason why, because they figure that person's stronger. Well, strong it depends on how it's tested and your view on it. Or it means a lot of people don't understand, generally it's people that have never done a yoke walk. So these numbers are just kind of arbitrary. They maybe understand how heavy a deadlift is or something, but they don't understand what it feels like to walk with a very heavy yoke. I don't know what it feels like to walk with a 1,000-pound yoke because I competed as a lightweight, and thankfully I never had to do weight like that. Nor could I, nor would I want to. Maybe if I didn't kill me. I mean, 800 and stuff was enough. So, Laws is correct that the weights have only gotten heavier over time. But the problem is that the athletes have gotten better. So, you have athletes that are taking very heavy weights, and they're making them look light for the viewers because of how they move with them. But I think this contest was I think it was really good weights. And you also have to remember, they competed 4 straight days. So people are going to get beat up. And imagine going like max effort, and these are super long days. Worlds is tough how they film it. These guys were just sitting around. They couldn't go back to the hotel or go hang out here because they're in a bubble. They're locked on the IMG compound, and they can't leave. And they do one event, they have to wait another 6 hours, do another event. That's torture. It's I filmed a Super Bowl commercial for Facebook, and you just sit around doing nothing. Now, and then I had to lift a light tire for a couple takes. Now imagine that same kind of process of filming a thing where you're just sitting around, they're staging things, they're moving you around, and then you have to do the lift of your life. These guys are beat, so you have to take everything in context that after 2 or 3 days of competing, the third, fourth day straight, it's not going to be the same as doing a one-day show where you go to an Arnold qualifier, etc. And Strongman's always been about testing overall strength, which includes who can move weight faster and dynamically, etc. And you might not like it, and you might want only just max effort stuff, just this, just that, and have your own idea. And there's a sport for that. It's called powerlifting. And powerlifting's great. There's some great athletes, but it's kind of boring. So, quick story. It's not going to be quick. I talk too much. I went into a gas station wearing my, SBD 2020 World's Strongest Man t-shirt. Thanks, SBD. Made me feel like a real central part of the community when I get free swag. To the gas station, and the guy's like, "Oh, I used to love watching that." And I get comments like that sometimes, especially when people figure out what I do or what I did, etc. And they always go, "Yeah, people are pulling trucks and throwing kegs over walls and lifting stones." That's what people relate to. That's what drew me into the sport initially. Now there's like a new section where it's just like people that like cat back deadlift 500 pounds and they only want to see 500 kilogram deadlifts. Well, we saw a 536 kilogram deadlift, wasn't it? It was that 537.5. It was from 18 inches and it was a different thing, but that's what Strongman is. It's not standardized. I don't think it's gotten too light. If you want these athletes to compete more often and etc., then it can't be like super heavy. Like we saw when they put the bale tote, like, okay, so an 1,100 pound yoke or whatever is too light. People move too fast with it. When they were doing like 15, 16, whatever 100 pounds at the Arnold, it ended like 3 careers. Basically ended Zadrunas' career, ended Mike Burke's career. Pretty sure Dimitar Savatinov got messed up from it, and countless others. It like set them back. It's like, and maybe some of those competitors even like that event, but like, I don't know. I don't think making it heavier is worth like having another solid 2-3 years of prime Z, because after you got that neck injury from that, he's maybe now just coming back, and it's like 5 years later. So I say if you want it like super, super heavy, then you have to pay the guys more. And right now they're not paid enough to do the weights they already are. So, in my opinion. And I think I like Strongman because you're being athletic with weights. And this show was heavy. Novikov is strong. Just because you don't see a bunch of videos of him like doing lat pull downs with the whole stack and like banded box squats and everything with different weights and stuff like that, doesn't mean he's not strong. He got, what, 4th or so in the log, and didn't really need big points, and he won the deadlift. Yeah, it was 18 inches, but Strongman's about testing various different things. And the next contest will be different. He also won his group in the squat, didn't he? What do you guys want? Do I think a healthy Martins or Mateus would have won this year? It's tough to say. I don't think the 18-inch deadlift favors Martins, and it definitely doesn't favor Mateus, and they probably would have, Martins less so, but placed very low in it. Both would have done good at the Hercules hold. Mateus would have won the log lift. I think it wouldn't have been as much of a walk in the park, but I think Novikov still could have pulled it off. I think the same thing with Martins versus Thor last year. Sometimes some people just come in, it's their week. And you saw Novikov, he looked the best through the heats, and he looked the most calm and collected and all together through the through the finals as well. So it's hard to discount. I think it would have been a lot closer, and they could, but I don't think it would be a given. Novikov beat Mateus twice at 2 Arnold qualifiers before, so it's not like he can't beat him. I think Martins holds more wins over Novikov head-to-head, but I think Novikov beats pretty much anyone this weekend with this set of events and how he came in. And a good example of this is he got second at Ukrainian Strongest Man like 3 weeks ago, so sometimes it's your week, sometimes it's not. Do I think that World's Strongest Man and other big shows should transfer away from standardized events and have, for example, different sized logs and old school deadlifts with rocks? The deadlift was a different deadlift. It was just wheels. They could have rocks. They could have different sized logs. And they do. Strongman isn't standard. The yoke had motorcycles on it. It wasn't standard this weekend. I'm not sure. I think there should be more. They did in the qualifiers, they did a carry medley. It wasn't with sandbags, it wasn't the same thing. This time they used monster truck parts. That's brand new. And I think there should be more where it's less of the same and the same, if that's what you're asking, but it already is like that. I do Stoltman's and other from the UK. Don't do Arnold Strongman Classic. This is this person's words. Arnold Strongman Classic is much better to win. You must be strong. Some events are too difficult for most athletes, and it's good. Yeah, I think the Arnold Strongman Classic is good too. Better is subjective. I won't get into that, but why I think the UK athletes don't do it as much is because with Giants Live, which then feeds into World's Strongest Man, being so much. It's so much more accessible if you're in the UK. The Giants Live is based in the UK, so they have all these arena shows with 10,000, all 5, 6, whatever thousand people. They got Britain's Strongest Man, which is an arena show, which generally ends up being around the Arnold. They have, they have the Wembley, they have the Giants Live Finals. You're going to do 3 or 4 big shows which have good money and are seen on TV every year. The opportunity for a British, you don't have to go fly 8 hours, go to Australia, Brazil, all over the world to do an Arnold. Why would it? If I was a high-level strongman in the UK, I would only focus on Giants Live and Worlds. That's where you're seen on major television in the UK. That's going to get your endorsements because of that. That's going to make you a household name. And it's just it's a business decision at that point. Like the Arnolds pay like 10 grand to win, but it's not the greatest money in the world, and there's no exposure. It's not shown on television over there, which does matter. I know that they're planning a UK Arnold, which got everything that was planned is all up in the air because of 2020 and all its crap. So that would maybe introduce more of these athletes to do it because it'd be more accessible. And some have done the Arnold Europe and stuff in the past. But yeah, it's just the smart business decision. And if you're a pro athlete, this is your business. For someone based in the UK is to do Giants Live and Worlds. That's what I'd recommend any athlete to do if they asked me what makes the most sense. Unless they're like so built for like the Arnold kind of stuff. Or that's what they wanted to do. Instead of having an off day after the heats, which did not happen this year, and all of the eating YouTube videos for most of the contestants, should an eating contest on that off day of some sort be one of the strongman events? Only if you really want Brian Shaw to win, because I've seen that guy eat and no one's beating him. But pretty much, if everything behind the scenes is an eating contest at Strongman, it's just not film. What do I think about 5 or 6 events in the final with 10 athletes? I personally think that the heats and the finals could be merged. I do too, and I think they're not just because how it's sold for television. It makes a compelling show, and it's kind of fun. Like I've said in the past that it should just be 25 athletes doing 10 events. Like we saw Adam Bishop, he had a rough run in the heats, and then he was like, second after day 1 in the finals? Because the event suited him better, and he just had a better day. So I think you'd have a more well-rounded strongman overall if they had to do both. And you just do 10 events over 4 days or whatever, 10, and they're doing the same amount of events. They just all score together and everyone gets to do it. My idea is you do like, 1 event per episode. I think it would be better. It's basically how CrossFit Games is done. Like they have their qualifiers throughout the year that they all go to, which would be like Giants Live. Then the top, I think in CrossFit it's 40, but we could keep it to 20 or 25. And you would still have these people that emerge as stars because some of these guys that would never make the finals normally or barely miss it, etc., would have that event where they excel at. There's some guys that didn't make the finals that would probably won the log ladder, because they got knocked out in the heats. I'm sure we would have liked to see Luke Stoltman do that. Healthy Graham Hicks, of course. I think it would be a better, I don't know if it makes a better TV show, and that's the debate, but I think it would make a more competitive contest, and you could do more odd events, and there'd be bigger point swings. Or someone could just run away with it crazy like you see Matt Fraser doing CrossFit. Okay, so this is a pretty good one. Which strongman comp has the best model to promote the sport? Arnold events, World's Ultimate Strongman, Champions League, Giants Live, or World's Strongest Man? I think they'll have their positives and negatives. What I like about the Arnold is it's a little easier to follow. I know World's has its own qualifying system, which is Giants Live, but it's a little more loose than the Arnold. So Arnold, you go to the various Arnold qualifiers. Whoever wins one goes to the Arnold Strongman Classic, and they also collect points, and then there's 2 wild cards based on who did well through who picked up the most points due to their placings throughout the Arnold series. The issue is who gets invited to those Arnolds. They're still like, how do you go there? Where World's Ultimate Strongman, they're kind of like looking at the results of all the big shows and bringing people together, and there's something positive to that. Now they did the feats of strength, and they got it on ESPN and stuff, which was good. Giants Live and World's Strongest Man, basically the same thing, because Giants Live is the qualifying tour. And the good thing, the biggest benefit Giants Live had, and we've seen this now with a few athletes, is you can submit your scores online, qualify for the official Strongman games, place top spots in the official Strongman games, qualify for Giants Live, then you do well at the Giants Live, top 3, I believe. Then you go to Worlds. So that's kind of the most open qualifying system there is. Trey Mitchell did it that way. Evan Singleton did it that way. Luke Richardson did it that way. So, we're seeing athletes, I don't know if Kevin Ferris did it that way or not, too. But, we're seeing it work, and these people go to, Worlds and be ready. Luke Richardson made the finals. Trey did last year. Evan might have, if he, didn't tear his bicep. Hope for a speedy recovery for him. I think the most overall exposure that any of them get is still World's Strongest Man. But, it's not to disparage that. I think they all could be improved upon. And there's another question that ties on this a little bit more later. Well, it's actually the next one. And I would say Worlds definitely could be. They have the biggest TV contracts. I think they have the biggest reach as far as social media, etc. They do a lot with official Strongman. So the next question, which will piggyback off this last one, what would your ideal World's Strongest Man qualification system look like? More Giants Live, wider selection of athletes, specific qualifications for wild cards. First off, I think there needs to be something on Giants Live that explains it. And for every athlete that qualifies, it should show the road that they took. Even if, and it's a little bit more work, but it builds up the backstory and it inspires the next people. Because I get questions all the time, like, how do I go to World's Strongest Man? Or how do I do this? And sometimes they're really strong people. I think it's nice in a way that they can do special wild card invites and stuff. But yeah, I think it kind of just shoring up a little bit. I know they're going to do, another Giants Live North America this year was supposed to be a bigger arena show, and that was a step forward. But problem is most of the Giants Lives are UK based. They used to be all over the world, and they just have an existing show and attach Giants Live to it. But now they're able to sell arenas in the UK, so you do that. Sweden's Strongest Man would just be Sweden Giants Live Sweden, and then there'd be Giants Live Australia, and I think that's helpful because you get a couple of the local guys. So if they're more all over the world, it'd be good. It's just I don't think all of those markets would support the arena model yet, and hopefully eventually they do. And if they did that and just had it more explained more to the fans how it worked, I think it could be really, really good. Unless or you listen to me or you ask somewhere or you're in Giants Live, you probably don't know that Trey Mitchell qualified through the official Strongman games, then the Giants Live qualifier in 2019, or that's how Luke Richardson, in 2018, and that's how Luke Richardson did in 2019 to get to 2020. And those things just need to be promoted, and there just needs to be clear information for the next Luke Richardson out there to find. And then just less up in the air. Even when I was explaining some stuff, I forgot certain shows happened at Giants Live. Because, sometimes they have, a qualifier happens right after World's Strongest Man, and it's shown, so you forget that was for this next year qualifying instead of the previous year because it was the previous year. And the Arnold has it kind of broken down, and I think there's issues with the Arnold qualification as well, but just on how do you get into that. in the first place, but it has its benefits as well. But it's just more transparency and making it more clear cut to the fans, and just more shows overall. And if there's more shows, then there wouldn't be room for cherry pick athletes in wild card spots. What does the sport need to do to start having live coverage? I think you mean World's Strongest Man. The Arnold has plenty of live coverage. Because there wasn't live coverage is why I ever started doing stuff like this. But and they tried the little behind a paywall live from Bradenton thing, and I think overall it was good. It needed to be quicker. You needed to just do updates quick, not edited together, big old shows. Fans don't care if stuff are raw. Look at me. Just, people want to know what happened. And they've opened up more and more over the years, and I think eventually World's Strongest Man someday in my lifetime, I might be old, but I think it'll be live streamed to some extent, or they could just show those things and people come in. I think it will. It's moving that direction. I just don't really know the answer on how. It just depends on people deciding that that's a better business model. We always talk about who's the strongest ever, who is the strongest never to win, but who's the strongest to never have competed at World's Strongest Man. I'm going to go with people that were alive during World's Strongest Man, which started in '76, I believe. And I think Mark Henry would be a good bet there. He won the Arnold. I think he still holds the super total record, which means highest squat, bench, deadlift, snatch, and clean and jerk of all time. Pretty sure he does. I might be wrong. But I'd say Mark Henry would be the strongest to have never competed. What is the worst event you've witnessed? I watched a local comp recently that had a 700-pound yoke hold for max time. Yeah, that's a boring event. Just when stuff's unsafe. Yeah, I think a yoke hold, there's certain things that's does this put the athlete at unnecessary risk of injury, and is it appealing or fun to watch or fun to do? And if none of those things happen, I think a yoke hold might be the worst possible event, honestly. It's just cool, this person can have spinal load and compress their spine for the longest. I mean, you could say I might have, one of the worst events I ever witnessed is the one I was really good at. And they had a yoke squat, and it was a set height to do it from, and I'm short, and I had to move it this far and did just about as much as the heavyweight, so I did really well in it. I think I did 900 something pounds, but a lot of other people would probably say that's the worst event ever. I don't like yoke squats or yoke holds. Why do you think World's Strongest Man is still pre-recording their shows and showing at a later date? We watch it on Channel 5 in the UK, which isn't a channel. I don't know enough. I would have thought that would give it maximum exposure. Do you think that they will move with the time soon and do something similar to CrossFit coverage where they make it a proper event? That would be great to see with guys like you and Laws providing expert analysis. I think World's Strongest Man could work as a live event if they did that. We kind of saw it at the Arnold where they had the rogue round table or something. Problem was they had CrossFit athletes commentating on what's happening at strongman contests, which I love CrossFit and everything, but you're not asking me or Laws to go to the CrossFit games and talk about how people did on double unders and kipping pull-ups either, are you? I think you just get to do it with strongman. You need, even the Giants live shows, they need that table where there's those 2-3 people that are, you're supposed to hype up, show some ads, keep everyone riled up, and I think someone like Laws and or there's other people that could do a good job of that. I think that would be what would be needed. But right now, I still think World's Strongest Man gets the most exposure overall for the sport, and they're in a business model that works, and I don't think it's going to change until it doesn't. Do I think any weight class will be in a major strongman contest, or always open weight will be in front? Maybe pro World's Strongest Man, Arnold Strongman Classic under 105 kilograms, something. Is that possible? That already exists. You just don't know about it because they're not publicized. And I think these contests should be made to be television events as well. And I think this is a great, those events are live streamed and you don't know about them. And I think that's a great example of why, people say TV and stuff doesn't matter at all anymore, but it does, because you didn't know about that and you're a Strongman fan. I mean, you're watching my videos. I competed at the Arnold, Strongman World Championship as an under 80 kilogram, 175 pound athlete twice. The first two that they had, and it still goes on. I did it in 2013 and 14. And it was great. I was a life goal to do something like that. Be able to compete for a world championship. And the official Strongman Games happens every year, promoted by Lynn Morehouse, and that's World's Strongest Man for every weight class other than the one we just watched, the open weight. They have Masters World's Strongest Man, which Terry Hollins won last year. They have under 105 kilogram World's Strongest Man, which Anthony Furman won the last 2 years. They have, under 90, under 80. They have, World's Strongest Woman, and the weight classes for World's Strongest Woman. So they exist. It's just they're not televised, so people don't know about them. And I think and they're not promoted as much. Lawrence Chalet's done a good job putting some of little spotlights on like those the under 90, under 105, under 80 athletes that have won them recently, and that's a good step forward. And I should do more of that stuff as well. But I think if they're filmed and made into proper TV productions, like everything else, it would give it more legitimacy, and then people would know they exist. So I think that's an example of why TV matters. So that's all the questions. I'm sick of talking. You're sick of listening. I'm Kalle Beck. Thanks for watching.